All right, guys, so we are going to be starting our unit called the quadratics unit, but it begins with what we call factoring. So one of the last things that we did last unit was multiplying polynomials, and now we have to do what we call factoring polynomials. So first off, GCF stands for your greatest common factor. And so that just means the biggest number that is divisible by certain numbers. Okay, so for the first two examples, I just want us to find the greatest common factor of the three different terms. So when we're looking at these, the first thing I want you to look at is the numbers. So when you're looking at 25 and 45 and 65, I want you to think, what can you divide by all three of those numbers? And the greatest common factor there would be 5. Okay, and we're going to be like dividing this out as well. Now, when you look at your letters, so when you have a greatest common factor with letters, your greatest common factor will include the variable with the highest or with the lowest exponent. So I'm going to write that down. Okay, so the GCF here would be x squared. So I would also do x squared and x squared and x squared. So my greatest common factor for this particular problem would be 5x squared. Okay, and then we look at the next one. I've got 12, 8, and 16. So the highest number that can be divided by all of those would be 4. And then you look at your letters. So I have a Q here, but there's no Q here and there's no Q here. So it is not included in my GCF. And then R. There's an R here, an R squared here, and an R here. So I will just include an R in my GCF, and then I have a T. But because there's only a T here, it is not included in your GCF. Okay, now that is just finding the GCFs. So now when we're talking about factoring, let's look at it as a general of shapes for a second. So if I have a square and a triangle, and I'm multiplying those together, plus a square and a circle, the thing they have in common is the square. So they both have this in common. The thing that they have in common goes on the outside. So this is what they have in common. And then the two things that are left, so like the triangle and the circle is what they do not have in common, will go back inside a parentheses. All right. Now, we're going to treat this like a box, like we did when we were multiplying. So we're going to treat this essentially as this is my answer. Okay? So inside a box that has 3 spaces, so 6x to the 4th plus 12x to the 5th minus 4x squared will be written into my box. So then we're going to look at what we can divide by all of those. So I know that I can divide 6, 12, and 4 all by 2. That will be the highest thing that I can do there. So I'm going to put the 2 out here, and then I'm going to look at my variables. I have x to the 4th, I have x to the 5th, and I have x to the 2nd. I'm going to take out my lowest exponent. So x to the 2nd will go here. All right, now I'm going to put on the top of that box what will multiply. So 2x squared times what will give me 6x to the fourth? Well, 2 times 3 will give me 6. And then x squared times x squared will give me x to the fourth. Okay, and we'll continue to the next part. So 2 times what will give me 12. And then x squared times x to what power would give me an x to the fifth? Well, remember when we're multiplying, we add the exponents. So 2 plus 3 would give me the fifth power. And now negative 4, what is what I'm trying to get. So I have a 2, I need a negative 2. Then that's an x squared, and I already have an x squared, so it will not get a variable. So when we go to write our answer, we write our GCF on the outside, and then the numbers that we got back on the inside. Okay, so let's look at another example. All right. So I'm looking at 4x squared minus 10x. So when I'm looking at my numbers 4 and 10, what can be divided? The highest number that can be divided by 4 and 10. Okay, that would be a 2. Then I'm looking at my letters. I have x squared and I have x to the first. So that would be my lowest one. The lowest one comes out. Okay, and then we are dividing those out. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then to get x squared, I know I have to have an x and another x. Now negative 10 divided by 2 will be negative 5. This has an x and so does this, so this does not get one. So my GCF from here goes on the outside. 2x minus 5 goes on the inside. All right, let's look at a few more examples. All right, we have 27y squared plus 18y. So the first thing I'm going to look at, what can I divide by 27 and 18? The highest number. Okay, and that will be 9. And then I have y squared and I have y to the first. I'm taking my lowest exponent out here. Okay, well, to get 27, I need 9 times 3. And to get y squared, I need another y to the first. Okay, to get 18, I would have 9 times 2. And then this already has the y. So when I go to write my answer, a GCF, and then what I got. All right, let's look at B. All right, so when your first number starts out as a negative, you want your GCF to include the negative. So from there. Now, 4, 8, and 2 can all be divided by 2. But because this number is negative, I'm going to make it a negative 2. And then this has an a squared, and that has an a, and this one does not have an a. So since it does not have an a, then I do not have a GCF as far as my variables go. It is only the -2. So when I divide that out, -4 divided by -2 will be 2. And I'm keeping that a squared. And then I need a -8. So -2 times 4a will give me the -8a. And then something times the -2 that will give me a +2 will be a -1. And so that would be written as -2 2a squared plus 4a minus 1. All right, and then this one. So 15w squared minus 3w. So I can divide both of these by 3. And then they both have a w. This w to the first power is the lowest. So 3w times what will give me 15w squared. No, it should be 5w. And then what times 3w would give me a -3w. Well, that's just -1. So I'll have 3w times 5w minus 1. All right. And then the last one. So 3x to the 4th minus 9x squared plus 6x to the 5th. All right, I can divide all of these numbers here by 3. And then the variable with the lowest exponent is x to the 2nd. Okay, so I already have a 3 here and a 3 here, so I can just put a 1. But then x squared times what would give me x to the 4th, and that would be x squared. And then I have a -9 here with a 3 here. So -9 divided by 3 would be -3. I have an x squared here, a squared here, and I don't need that. So now 6 divided by 3 will be 2. And then I need an x to the 5th. I have an x squared out here, so this will need to be x to the 3rd. So my GCF was 3x squared. And then all my leftover stuff will go on the inside.